What's good, ALSD? Welcome to today's webinar. Jared Frank here, publisher for the ALSD. Before we tackle today's content, did anybody get any interesting emails sent to them yet today? Spoiler alert for anyone not caught up on your inbox, but what today's email communicates is we have announced that we have officially rescheduled the 2020 ALSD Conference and Trade Show for October 18th through the 20th at the Sheraton Dallas Hotel. You know, we did not come to this decision with ease. We are extremely sensitive to everyone's reality out there, your economic realities, your social realities, and of course, your health realities. So please know we are working with our partners and working with the hotel to provide great content during a time when it's perhaps needed more than ever. That's appropriate for our current climate, and it's great content delivered safely. And we'll continue to be transparent with our safety measures leading up to October. But for today, I'm just happy to make the announcement and have a direction forward. You can visit ALSD.com to see a skeleton agenda today, and of course, revisit the site in the coming weeks and months as we flesh out the experience. We wanted to do a virtual session this week specifically because if you check your calendar closely, you'll be reminded that this week was when we were originally scheduled to host all of you at the 30th annual ALSD Conference and Trade Show. And we're just bummed that we're not able to do that. We miss our event in the same way I'm sure all of you miss your own events. So we didn't want this week to pass without providing some great content for you to help move your business forward and a chance to gather and spend time together, even if it's just virtually today. So to get us started today, I'm going to ask each panelist to tell us who he is, name, title, team, organization, the area of expertise he brings to today's topic, and the best way for the audience participants to connect after the event, should y'all have questions. Scott Spencer, why don't we start with you? Which talking head are you on people's screens today?
Hey there, I'm Scott Spencer, president and founder of Sweet Experience Group. Glad to be with you all today. Sweet Experience Group is a technology company based in Silicon Valley, and through our Suite Pro platform, we help teams and venues maximize suite sales. So would love to continue the conversation with anybody who wants to afterwards, and you can find me on LinkedIn, but also my email address will pop up at the end of this. So looking forward to the conversation.
Awesome. Well, process of elimination, I think we can ID you, Dan, but please do introduce yourself.
All right, Dan August, Vice President of Ticketing and Business Strategy for the Rams. Going into my 5th season here after 8 years at the NFL's league office. Ticketing, game day guest experience, and other random projects on the business strategy front here at the Rams. And if you want to connect later, you can also find me on LinkedIn, or my email will be at the end as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. And I would be remiss if I didn't call out Max on the back end of this. As always, Max Snyder, the ALSD's Director of Sponsorship, is helping out on the back end of today's webinar, and want to thank him for that. He's quickly become our Zoom expert on staff, and if we have any connectivity issues or anything like that, he's here for tech support. You know, Max is always on it. So it's a thankless task, but couldn't do this without him. So Max, can you please launch the deck for us? And I'm actually going to get started with a few thoughts from the ALSD point of view today. You know, I was thinking about how to frame this session, and what came to mind was 2020. You know, it's been a hell of a year. And the reasons contributing to its volatility seem to be growing, not diminishing. But what everyone seems to still want to talk about primarily in industry sessions like this one is COVID. Everyone wants to solve COVID in their buildings as they're planning to reopen someday. Rightly so. And today's session can certainly be one of the tools used in helping to do more with less in your organizations in this coronavirus world as we reopen. But here's the thing as it relates to a suite sales strategy. Even before COVID-19 was a thing, suite leases had been in decline. And in decline despite a financial bull market that until recently ran for a record-breaking length of time, over a decade. And this chart here summarizes what the ALSD has observed in that time. The direction of the lines, they sort of speak for themselves. Earnings for companies have gone up, but their willingness to invest in a long-term suite lease during the same time period has gone down. So our challenge here today is to pass along an up-to-date playbook to sell more single event suites in response to this trend. Might be accelerated by COVID, but let's be honest, it wasn't created by COVID. And therefore, it's not going away if and when a vaccine removes the virus as a risk. So our presentation and our discussion here today focuses on an opportunity that's indifferent to COVID-19. It's one that's paired with the deteriorating financial market fundamentals as well as the underlying economy. One that's paired with the on-demand world and a critical need to focus on moving single event suites as part of that world, which is one in the process of being solved for by our friends at the Los Angeles Rams. So demonstrating these tactics of selling single event suites, both how to do it well and why, is what I've challenged the panel to talk about today. So Scott, I appreciate you yielding the floor to me for a few minutes, but let's kick it over to you now. And why don't you start peeling back the layers of this onion?
Yeah. So bear with me for a few moments while we look at some adjacent industries that I think will inform some questions about us in the suite business. And you think about how we used to book flights or hotel rooms. People used to walk into a travel agent who was the true expert and would help navigate through that purchase decision. You fast forward to today, and travel agents are fairly obsolete. Within seconds, we can pull up all of the details we need about flights halfway across the world or hotel rooms in a different city. And it begs the question, why in the suite business are we still selling suites like an old school travel agent? It certainly can't be more complicated to sell a suite than it is to sell, a plane flight to Istanbul. And so, and then you pair that, if you go to the next slide, Max, think about an industry that is one of the hardest and most frustrating to transact with. Here's a picture of, a friendly local Ford dealer probably haggling on price. Nobody likes to go in and buy a car. And there's a company that has completely turned that model on its head, and that's Tesla. And Tesla allows you to go to their website from your phone, and within 3 clicks, you can put down a deposit to purchase or to put down a deposit on a Tesla. And again, it's just an example of what technology has enabled us to do is make the consumer buying experience a lot easier. And there's an opportunity for all of us in the suite business to put that frame on our jobs. And so we need to make it easier for buyers. Number one is when a buyer does a Google search for your suites, are you at the top of the search results? That's sort of table stakes. Number two, is it easy, once the buyer clicks on your website, is it easy for them to educate themselves about your offering? And lastly, do you make it easy for them to purchase the suite? And, it seems really, really simple, but I go back to that travel agency analogy. For a lot of teams, it's probably more complicated than it needs to be. And that was really the lens that Dan and I worked together on as we built out ramsuites.com, is let's make this as easy and seamless a buying experience as we possibly can. And underlying that is Suite Pro, which is the first kind of end-to-end technology platform that's been designed specifically for suites. There's 2 buckets of Suite Pro. The first is an e-commerce website, which Dan is going to talk you through. And then the second is actually, more frankly, the magic of the system. I'd say probably 85% of the development effort went into this back-end sales and service platform. And And if you go to the next slide, Max, that's really all encompassing from managing inventory to selling suites, to even automated communications with customers, so that the RAM sales team stays on the same page and is as effective and efficient as possible. So with that, that's sort of the frame that I've got for today, and just looking forward to the conversation.
Terrific. Thanks, Scott. I want to keep us moving along here, and I know the audience is excited to hear from Dan. So Max, why don't you go ahead and launch ramsuites.com now? And while we're transitioning, Scott, I'll come back to you. Have a question or two here. One that came to mind while you were presenting, you really outlined well the narrative that customer expectations have been rewired by other industries. And we now live in the sharing economy, the digital first economy. Frankly, we've been in it for a while now, and we're all aware of these companies. We all use their services, but that philosophy hasn't necessarily migrated over to the sports industry, certainly not quickly. So I'm curious, what is the threat to a team's business if it doesn't pursue these opportunities and that type of philosophy for their business?
Yeah, I think there's at least two threats. Number one is this is actually happening anyways on the secondary market already through different platforms like Suite Experience Group and SuiteHop and Luxury VIP Suites. And so, and buyers have shown that there's a desire for this. So there's sort of an internal to the industry threat, but probably more importantly, there's a threat outside the industry that, you as a team are always going to capture that diehard buyer that comes back year after year and has a deep relationship with a salesperson. There's lots of options out there for consumers. And so, if an executive assistant gets asked to look into team outings, they might be looking at Topgolf. They might be looking at a business dinner. And so I think there's, a need to be able to capture that casual buyer through an online experience more effectively. That to me is the second threat.
Sure, absolutely. Well, Dan, let's pivot to you now, and you're gonna run through for us what you did with Scott and his team. But before we get into the single game rentals specifically and the website specifically, I know I'm curious. I imagine many in the audience are as well, to see and learn everything that you have from a suites perspective in the new building. So if you wouldn't mind, can you run through your entire suite portfolio with us that's in the new building? So that's both leased products and those available for single game rentals. And while you're doing that, Max can go ahead and show some of those renderings and show some aspects of the website to illustrate for the audience some of those products.
Yeah, no, happy to do so. So on the suite ownership side, in general, we have over 260 suites in the building. So quite a large building with a lot of premium products, over 13,000 club seats and over 260 suites. Over half of those suites are what we call stadium suites. So you get them for all events. That's both NFL teams, that's concerts. There's certain exclusions, but you have the option to buy other suites for certain events. So at that level, you get a number of things. You're getting road trips, you're getting year-round access, Super Bowl tickets, a number of great things. Then once you get past the stadium suites for both teams, you have team-specific ones. So that's really focused on the team events. So you have Rams suites, which is over a quarter of those suites are Rams-only suites. You then have options for other events, and you're still able to use that suite for off days. So if you want to book an appointment with and have a couple business clients come, you can do that. And those range in size, but a lot of those are in your typical 20 size, but we do have 8-person suites as well, which we found that there's a lot of interest in those smaller suites, people who still want that private experience, private entrance, exclusive club, VIP parking. As you work your way down, you then get to single game suites, which this stadium was always built with single game suites in mind. Just thinking through, Los Angeles is one of those markets where there's a lot of businesses here. There's a lot of people with just a high discretionary income who for one-off events might want that special experience. So you talk about field cabana suites. You have suites right behind the benches. There's about 18 of those, and people could be right behind the benches. Might not be for a full season a suite that people would want because you're not seeing the whole game from a high up placement. But for a single event to be that close to the players, that it's a great experience for people, and we've seen a lot of interest on there. You also have what we call stage suites and terrace party suites. So those are bigger suites. Again, that's why we thought of them as single game products. So if you click over to the stage suite one there, right there, you're able to learn a little more right in this main view. And then if someone clicks learn more, they could see a couple images there of the suite. There you could see how the stage suites actually expand. So you can buy one of two stage suites on two of the corners, or you can combine them and fit up to 100 people. So we have suites of all different sizes, and depends on what people want, what kind of event they're hosting. Once people know if they are interested, then they can kind of go through the buy flow. And if they have other questions, they can always call in. But we do feel that on the single game event side, we're able to meet various needs that come on board and make it pretty seamless for people who want to book a special event for themselves or their business.
So before I let you loose even further to run through the site, Dan, how heavily are you guys investing in digital marketing campaigns overall? Is this ramsuites.com a one-off tactic, or is it part of a larger point of view? And if so, what is that point of view?
Yeah, no, it's part of a larger point of view for us. So working with Suite Experience Group, we've pixeled this site so that we're able to retarget folks who visit. So when we're doing marketing, we can then reach back out to them. We can look at our buyers and target lookalikes. We do a lot of advertising across Facebook, Instagram, Google search, working with the Suite Experience Group to make sure that this site is optimized for search as well, to make sure it's organically the number one place and we can be buying against it as well. We've done that over the past few years on season tickets, on single game tickets. We have on our marketing team, we have a couple folks who specialize in that to make sure we're really optimizing our spend and finding people who may not know they're interested yet, but we think that they'll be interested, or we've noticed a pattern of behavior that's similar to others, and we could just start bringing them down the funnel to purchase a tent or to fill out a form to learn more. So I think our team does a great job of that, and we work hand in hand with them.
So you've actually started to get into what my next question was going to be, and it harkens back to something Scott said, and that's the importance of ranking well in search results. I've read research recently. I think it was a Gartner article actually that demonstrated something like 3/4 of B2B product discovery begins with an online search. So that's a key point from my perspective. And then the same piece of research suggests that 80% of the B2B buyer decision stems from that buyer's online experience. So it's better be easy to digest that product information, and it looks like this site does a great job of that. So Dan, if you could, for us, if you could just take some more time and take us through what that user journey is on the front end of ramsuites.com, demonstrating how simple, intuitive that experience is, how all the necessary information to make a purchase decision is included, and it's really all there. Can you run us through that journey?
Yeah, no, and we worked obviously closely with Scott's team, but then also with a number of folks on our team, both on our ticketing team and also throughout our organization, to get a feel for what they would think. And we took notes from probably a dozen folks from different areas here to get that feel. And it's how we came up with this site, is how do you try and get as much information in front of people without overwhelming them? So trying to answer the questions that they would have. So as people are going through, they can explore the suites to really learn more about the types that are out there, see a few of the benefits up top that you get with a suite. Once they have a feeling of whether they are interested in purchasing, we start bringing them down. So they're either clicking learn more there, or at the top of this page, they can click either suite ownership, or they can just view availability once they're on one of these suites. So they can rent a suite, they can own a suite if that's interesting. But what this site is really built for is the rental. So if you scroll back up to the top, we have that ability where if someone says, all right, I think I want to buy, let me see what's out there. We have out there, here's all the games, here's how many suites that are on the site currently. And someone can click on one of the games, and Max, feel free to click on any of them, and they can start seeing what's out there, the price is in front of them. We're not trying to, I mean, to the example that Scott put up before, we're not trying to haggle with them. We're not trying to hide the price until someone calls in. We want to be fully transparent. That's something that we really value at our organization, is make this as easy as possible for people. If we have a number of suites, we are built to have a number of suites. If someone's ready to buy, let's have at it. We did our first sale on a Sunday on Mother's Day. So we didn't have reps in the office. Someone went on, not someone we knew, they purchased a suite for the Cowboys game. They knew what they wanted and they got enough information. But you can see here, it shows you a bit about where it is, how many tickets are included, the price. And if someone's like, all right, I think I want this one, they can click on one of these suites and they can start going down and they can get more details. They can learn about catering for the suite. And you can see there's the choice to instant book. It tells you there's no hidden fees. And if someone wants to call or email, they have that option as well. So we're not trying to force people down this. And that was something that we worked closely with Scott's team and really aligned on, is that we want this to be there for people and make it easy. But if someone wants to call in because they're not comfortable, that's fine, right? We're all incentivized to drive as many sales as possible. And once someone goes through the instant book process, they're putting information in, they're putting in their credit card, who the contact is in case you're not the billing address. You might be an admin for a company and you're booking on behalf of someone else. And they go through the process and they're agreeing to a contract. So we put that within here. Our legal team was obviously very interested in that, making sure that you've got the signature on there. The contract is very legible. And once someone goes through the flow, they're getting a kickback message saying someone will be in contact with them shortly. And then one of our reps reaches out to them to really make that personal connection. So we feel this makes it easy for people, and then they still have the personal connection, and we do that right on the back end.
Scott, let's bring you back in to the conversation here. If I'm reading the fine print clearly, it appears that the front end of this site is powered by your Suite Pro platform, but it's run and managed by the Rams. First of all, am I interpreting that correctly? And if so, who's building what, who's creating what, and who manages what when you're working with a client like the Rams?
Yeah, you interpreted it correctly. You know, our philosophy is that this is the Rams website and we're their technology partner in helping to power it. And so, you know, we've built out all the underlying technology on both the front end and how it's displayed, but also the back end and inventory management and the automation of the email platform, et cetera. But the Rams had to roll up their sleeves and you know, do a lot of the work of providing the assets, the pictures, the descriptions. They know they're building way better than we ever will. Same thing with what the messages needed to be to their customers after they purchase, the legal contract, et cetera. So it was, you know, very much collaboration. And the most important piece is that all of the contact information on the site it goes directly to the Rams. Suite Experience Group doesn't, frankly, it's separated into a separate database where we don't even touch that or see it. And so, you know, this is 100% the Rams site and we're their partner empowering it.
And I don't necessarily just want to gloss over the back end, as you phrase it, I think, well, that seems like where a lot of the magic happens. So yeah, I think it's worth our time to dive a little bit deeper into some of the high points of those back end responsibilities, functionalities, controls, benefits. What's happening back there?
Yeah. So one thing that I think is a nuance we haven't touched on is that probably the glamorous part of this site is the instant book, and you come in and you can purchase the suite directly on the website. But the majority of sales are still going to happen, especially in an NFL venue, through the sales team. And so this has really been built to help the sales team be a lot more efficient and effective. And that was working closely with Dan to understand their process better. And opening the building, they have a lot of salespeople that are out there selling. And so you can send a contract if you're a salesperson, within 15 seconds. Everything is pre-populated into the platform, and you can send a contract. All you have to type in is a customer's email address and name. And they get a contract, and it's all tracked and secure, et cetera. And so that's just one example of kind of the ease of use, and that automation and that ease kind of flows through the platform.
And Dan, perhaps this is a little bit redundant, or perhaps there's another layer here to speak to, but I'm wondering, how do you balance the site with your traditional sales team? How is it incorporated into the overall strategy, the overall planning of your sales team?
Yeah, this was definitely a consideration and a concern of our sales lead when we first started talking about it. Ultimately, we're selling out of the same inventory. So because the back end system that Scott's team has built out with Suite Pro, we're managing it. We're putting certain suites out there for the public to buy. We have more suites behind the scenes that our reps can be selling as well. And they're selling at the same time. And the way we kind of laid it out for our reps is this will be helpful to you. I think they've already seen that the leads that are coming in are much better than what we've normally got. We feel we have one of the best suite websites out there where people can really learn a lot more. They can see a lot of imagery. And by the time they get to our reps, they're pretty qualified leads. So you're getting a much easier sale. So I think they've already seen the fruits of our labor and really appreciate that there's something, and it's not a competition. Like we still want our reps to be out there. We're just hoping to make their job even easier and have them continue to also focus on full season suites and not only be trying to sell the single game suites and spending time with someone who answering easy questions. The easy questions can be done, and then they could spend 5 minutes instead of 20 minutes on the phone because the person's a lot more educated. So we really see it as much more efficient. Our service team feels the same way of just the management of it and the contract processing. Hopefully just saves us all a lot of time and sells more.
Well, good job, gentlemen. You've inspired some questions from the audience here. So I think I'm willing to push this an extra 5 or so minutes, take us to 35 minutes past the hour, and address some of these audience questions. Dan, first question I'm going to kick your way. When you were going through an ROI analysis, what were the main factors that allowed you to move forward and justify the expense of building this site with Scott and his team?
Yeah, I mean, we looked at in-house versus outsourcing. We looked at what other teams were doing. We saw what the Warriors did with building their site and spoke with those guys. They built a great site. We really enjoyed what they did. Ultimately, for us, we're a football team. We're opening a new stadium, and we wanted to work with someone who was willing to invest in this and was doing that for the long term. And for us, it wasn't something we wanted to build and spin out. So what we did, we worked with Scott's team and we talked to them. We shared a common vision. And when we talked through the contract terms and through everything, the ROI just made sense for us, and it would work better in the long term. We could get adjustments made as they keep investing in this technology, and they were going to be more on point. Whereas for us, it might have always been a second tier item. So we're extremely happy with the outcome, and we think it's going to be ROI very positive over the long run, especially once we get out of COVID and some of those issues that we're currently facing.
Bear with me here one quick second. I am literally overwhelmed with questions here, so I'm going to scan as quickly as I can and try to pick out some common ones. And just know that if your question doesn't get specifically answered, we will make a note of it, and that will help inform what our next round of content is. So this is clearly a topic we need to maybe do a chapter 2 on. Here's a good one and an easy one for you, Scott. Somebody is interested in a demo, so clearly like what they see. Can you just give them some details on how they can connect with you further so they can get that demonstration?
Yeah, Max, maybe you want to put up the contact information for all of us here, and would love to continue the dialogue with anybody that's interested. So please reach out to me at my email address, or you can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm easy to find, Scott Spencer on there. And, one thing I'll say is the technology is already built. And so without customization, you could launch this platform in a matter of days for your team. But the important part, and really the Rams have been just an incredible partner to us, and especially as our launch partner. The launch process is really a 3 or 4 week process where you've got to invest some time and make sure that the site is customized to your team's needs. And so that's why it's a true partnership where you own the site and we're your partner in helping to create it.
Dan, any other internal hurdles that you're willing to share that you had to overcome to adopt this new way of selling single game suites?
I think there's always the initial skepticism when you try something new and different. Obviously, this isn't prevalent in the suite market. People always know a certain way you do it. But I think over the years, we've done a few different things on the ticketing side. We had a game day pass product a few years ago that worked out really well for us. So I think we've kind of gained that respect internally, that taking a leap of faith, and it's always kind of calculated risks and making sure you limit the downside and hopefully you see a lot of upside in it. And there weren't many hurdles. We're a team that values trying new things and trying more ways, especially to help our consumers. Because in our mind, that's all this is doing. It's increasing transparency and hopefully bringing more people in to learn about what they can do at SoFi Stadium and what we have to offer.
Dan, got another one for you. You've addressed this sort of from a management perspective. This question looks to be a little bit more from a rep perspective. So I will ask you to speak for your reps since they're not available to do so themselves. But how do your sales reps feel about the automation? How do they interact with the automation? Do they consider it to be a threat to a potential sale in any way? I know you mentioned that they've really viewed it as an asset, but there's some concern here that some reps might view it as a threat. How would you address that?
To date, I haven't heard any of our reps say it's a threat to them. I think they still feel that they're in the relationship building business, and this is solving for a different need. Someone who's a lot more transactional in nature. And they also still, from what I've heard, feel this might bring in some new folks who they wouldn't have had discussions with otherwise, who aren't the type who want to speak to anyone on the phone. These are people who just want to buy it, they know what they want, and be done. So we haven't faced that issue. And in the long run, we also feel they'll get more full season suites, which helps our reps because that's a higher priced product. So we think this is really valuable for them and keeping their focus where it should be.
Well, like I said, everyone, we will address as many of these questions we can in future content. For today, Scott, I want to go ahead and give you the last word on this. I know the history, and I'm confident most in the audience know the history of Suite Experience Group on the suite resale side. So I just don't want there to be any confusion. I know I don't want to be confused here. Can you clarify, is that still part of your business? And how is everything fitting together now with Suite Pro and what you're doing with the Rams? And this, it seems like a new line of business for you.
Yeah, it is a new line of business. And, we've been in business for about 10 years, and we've been increasingly becoming a team first platform. And this really symbolizes for us, the future of the business is powering the technology for teams. Some teams have the desire to sanction suite resale in their building. And when that happens through our Suite Experience Group platform. And, so every team is different. And so for the teams that are sold out completely and now want to, have a platform to allow and enable suite resale with controls like setting floor prices and blackout dates, that is part of our business. But I think to me, the power of Suite Pro is allowing teams to have the technology to basically, just deliver the best possible consumer experience. So.
Outstanding. Well, I think we are going to have to leave it there for today, gents. On behalf of the audience, I want to thank both of you. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Dan. To the audience, please follow up with your questions. As I mentioned, apologize we couldn't get to all of those in time. But as you can see, the gentlemen have kindly made themselves available to discuss the topic further. You can always email me as well, jared@alsd.com. Please know that we will fuel our upcoming content with those questions, and I look forward to continuing the conversation. But for now, be well, be safe, be kind, and we'll see you next time.